Hi there, Sandra here from the Schwowin's Nest. If you've clicked on this video, you're looking for some tiered tray inspiration for spring. I've got a bunch of cuties for you. I'm starting out by using this tin can that came from a soup, but you could use any type of can as long as it's on the smaller side. Then you want to take a strip of foil, cut it to be the right height, and then we're just going to glue it right onto the can, basically just to camouflage some of those ridges. With a piece of cardboard, I just used part of a toilet paper roll and I cut it into this U shape. And what I'm going to do is take some of this Aleene's tacky glue and I'm actually going to just spread it all over the tin foil, and then I'm going to glue the foil right onto that little cardboard piece. I'm also going to glue a piece of foil to the inside. Basically, you just want to cover up all of the cardboard so you can't see it. The first shape didn't turn out the way I thought it would, so I just cut it down into a triangle. What I'm going to do is take some hot glue and glue it onto the can so it looks like a spout. So the wide edge will be on the top and the pointed edge will be at the bottom. And you can see how I'm going to be applying it here. Because hot glue dries really quickly when it's on metal, there was a little bit of glue sticking out, but I think it kind of adds to the character of the piece. It makes it look like the spout has been soldered on. To make the handle, I cut out another piece of flexible cardboard. This is just a piece of cardstock that I had, and I'm also going to cover it with foil. I folded the cardboard in on itself and then glued it down. So I just took half of the piece, folded it in, and then the other side I folded that in, glued them both together, and that just gave me a thinner piece, but it was much thicker and sturdier. Then I folded each end in about an inch so I'd have something for the glue to stick to the can, as you can see here. So I'm going to just add some hot glue to it and then put both pieces on in the shape of a handle. When it came to gluing the bottom part of the handle down, I decided instead of folding it in on itself, I would just fold it outwards and then glue it down that way. So both of the pieces of foil that are glued to the can are in the same direction. I'm going to give the can one coat of Parisian Gray Folk Art Home Decor chalk paint, and I'm also going to do the interior of the can because you'll see that once in a while. I wanted to put some kind of wording on the can, so I went over to my Cricut and I designed this little decal that says grow, and the O is in the shape of a flower. I'm going to peel these off and stick them on individually. The only one that I used transfer tape for was the flower because there were multiple pieces, so I wanted to make sure I could get it off all in one shot. The last thing I'm going to do is take my oil-based Craft Smart paint pen and just run it across the edges so it looks enameled. I think it turned out super cute. My second project for you is using these cutout bunny shapes from the Dollar Tree. They come 8 in a pack, and I'm going to use 6 of them. And I'm using my Weld Bond glue, which is what I use for wood shapes. When I want things to not have too much of a thickness, I find that hot glue sometimes is a little too thick. I'm going to glue 6 of them together so they make a really nice thick bunny that will stand on its own. While I'm doing this, I wanted to let you know that this video is part of the Floral Farmhouse DIY collab that's hosted by my very good friend Sonia over at Domestic Diva DIY. Isn't it appropriate that I'm telling you about a hop and I'm doing a craft that has something to do with a bunny? I just thought that was fun. Anyhow, in my description box, you're going to see a link to the next person in the hop. So you can click on that video. And then when you're done watching the next video, you click on the next link, and then you hop around until you get back to my video. So please make sure you go down into my description box, click on that link, and go visit the next person. I clamped the bunnies just to make sure they'd stay together while drying. These bunnies are ornaments, so they all have a little hole on them. I'm going to go ahead and use some wood filler and just fill it in, pushing it down with my finger. I'm going to give this bunny a couple of coats of white chalk paint, and you can see here in a little bit how thick it is. It really made a big difference. So for less than $1, I've got a really nice chunky bunny. After the bunny was dry, I took a little bit of a light green chalk paint. This is a Martha Stewart chalk paint that I got on clearance at Michael's, and this is a tiny little stencil brush. So I'm going to do some dry brushing with this color right on top of my white bunny, and I think he just turns out really rustic and sweet. My next project is using these garden stakes that I pick up at my local Dollarama store. They're similar to popsicle sticks, but they're actually a softer wood, so they're really easy for me to cut. I'm going to use my miter shears and cut out all of the pieces I need to make a little crate. Here's the layout of all the pieces that I'm going to need. I'm going to start by gluing the two bottom pieces together just with some hot glue. And I'm just going to reinforce it a little bit on the top, and then I'm going to continue on with the back. So these are little picket fence pieces. I'm going to glue the three of them together. I didn't do any measuring for these sizes. I just kind of eyeballed how big I might want the crate to be. So you could make it a little smaller, a little bigger, whatever suits your style. The last thing I did before I started to use this gel stain was add a little popsicle stick across the top of the picket fence. They were a little bit wobbly, so I just wanted to make sure that they were going to stay there. I also decided not to do a double layer of the crate. I ended up just doing a single layer of the panels because otherwise it would have been too tall. So I'm just going to use this rag and apply the stain. So it's just a wipe on, wipe off technique, and I'm just going to do the whole box. Now for the fun part, putting this all together. I took a styrofoam ball that I had in my stash and I glued both of them down to the bottom of the crate. These little styrofoam balls are available year-round at the dollar stores, and they are amazing to use for tiny little projects like this when you need to put some florals in. There's usually 8 in a pack. The larger ones I think are 6, but for $1 you just cannot beat that price, and then you don't have to use the more expensive floral foam. If I was going to be selling this, I would use the floral foam to make it more professional, but because this is just going to be for my tiered tray, I don't mind this styrofoam. I'm just tucking in a little bit of reindeer moss into the corners, and then I'm going to add a few little lavender picks, and I'll be done. The last project for you today is using one of these little cups that you can get from the Dollar Tree. I grabbed a bunch of them when they were out for Valentine's because I really love the shape of them and I thought they would be perfect for tiered trays. I cleaned off all of the print on it by using 100% acetone and a cotton rag, and it literally just cleaned it all up. So now it's just a plain white little jar. I'm going to take my chalk paint and, of course, paint it white again, although it would have been okay, but I just don't really like the shiny look to it. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a couple coats. I really love creating labels and printing them on white tissue paper. This is a technique that I picked up from another channel not too long ago, and I am loving it. So you just take your tissue paper and you tape it right onto a piece of printer paper and then put it through the printer just like normal, and you get this wonderful little mottled kind of look to it. I do have an inkjet printer. I do not know how it would work on a laser printer. So if you have a laser printer, you'll have to let me know or try it out. I'm not quite sure how it'll work. But this is also the first time that I printed off anything in color. So my little logo there has some purples and greens and grays. And then I also printed out a tiny little fresh flower market sign, which is a free printable that is already available on my Google Drive, I think, not on my website. I'm having issues with my website, so I do apologize for that. I'm going to cut them both out, and then I'm going to use Mod Podge to attach them to the little jar. I've tried a few different ways of applying the Mod Podge. It really doesn't matter how you get it onto your container. It matters how you're going to put the tissue paper on. I don't like using a sponge brush because I get a lot of bubbles that way. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab my little label and place it right on top of the Mod Podge and then smooth it out with the brush. Here's where the brush comes into play. You can see that I'm just pouncing up and down ever so slightly, and this is helping to squish all of those little air bubbles out, but not ripping the tissue paper. You have to be very gentle with it, have a very light touch, but that pouncing up and down will really help to flatten out that tissue paper. You also want to kind of go around the edges like I'm doing here, just to camouflage that tissue paper a little bit more, make it blend right into the paint. I just put my little logo on the other side of the jar and I'm just applying it in the exact same way. I just love these little jars and I think it came out super cute. If you liked my video today, please give me a thumbs up so YouTube knows you liked it. If you're new to my channel, I'd like to say welcome and stick around a while. Hit that subscribe button. Those two black arrows will show you exactly where to click. Thank you so much for your support and for watching. Don't forget to click the next person in the hop. Bye for now.